as part of their proffers?
Well, if they're doing
Voluntary
rezoning,
proffers, yeah.
if they're rezoning,
Right.
we will do that. But what we would like to do, and Mr. Emerson has helped us with that, is in a month or so bring you language that we can put in our local ordinance so that if the property is not being rezoned, that we can still get that in-building coverage. For example, what we wanted something to say is if the building is over 30,000 square feet, the coverage inside the building must be the same as it is outside the building. If it is not, then an in-building solution needs to be provided by that owner of the building.
By the owner,
New
okay.
construction only,
Right.
moving forward.
Right.
But we want a real solution that covers both those buildings that are rezoned and those that are not being rezoned. If someone's building a 30,000 square foot warehouse on a property that is zoned for that, we would not have the leverage if we don't go a different route politically.
Right.
So a couple
Okay.
months we should have that wording to you.
All right, and that's been a key thing that the sheriff and you have said before is in building there sometimes when you don't have the proper reception.
That's correct.
Okay, my last question is we're withholding 122,000 and change, whatever that number was, 122,739. Is that realistically enough to rectify any problems we determine? Or we're really saying Motorola's going to fix every place that the reception is not good in the spring or summer when we have full foliage?
This is, the way the contract was set up, they're supposed to do this coverage
Right.
test. It's supposed to pass.
Right.
Say it had been done in the summer, then we would work toward the cutover date.
Right.
And then a 30-day burn-in, then we have to pay them that final payment in full, so.
Anyhow, right.
Anyhow. All this does is, it adds this language that they will come back and retest an unknown amount of blocks, which they pay a contractor or a subcontractor to come do with their computers and cars and stuff, that type of thing. So we will be identifying during the 30-day burn-in everything we can identify that's not working to what we would think the contract called for, and we would have this layout of these areas that we know are marginal they're going to retest. So I think that's pretty much enough money to cover all of that we would need.
That's kind of what I thought. I just wanted to hear you say it. And the reality is the best laid plans of mice and men, we had intended this to be done in the summer, but because we didn't get permission from the state police through general services,
Correct.
At the state level, we're now kind of behind the 8 ball, but luckily the vendor is going to work with us, so we'll be able to be up and running in December. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, other questions? If not, a motion is in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, that we accept this zero-cost change order.
Second.
Been moved and properly second that we would approve change order number 2 for Motorola Public Safety Radio Project as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Can we do number 9? Do we have time enough to do that? Okay, agenda item number 9, possible adoption of VA USBC Property Maintenance Code to address code violations at county motels.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have before you a packet outlining a number of issues that staff has identified at one or more of the motels in the Carmel Church area. Currently, we are somewhat limited in terms of our ability to address these issues. And what you have before you is a request from staff for the board to consider a limited adoption of a specific section of the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code as it relates to property maintenance of certain types of residential structures. You have the issues that have been identified. You have the supporting documentation from the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code. And you also have a schematic which outlines a potential limited area and within the Carmel Church growth area for consideration of adoption of an ordinance specific to these areas. The board's aware that we've had a number of complaints at these facilities over the years. Those complaints have increased to the point that we have I think a legitimate concern about health and safety issues. And we get these complaints from not only within our department or within building inspections, but from other departments and agencies as well. And collectively, we have identified this as the one step, and I would argue the first and most important step in terms of addressing these issues. Mr. Whiteman has assembled much of the documentation that is included in your presentation and is here to answer any specific questions related to the code, the authority, and the details of how it would work. But again, the boundary that you have in there is a very limited boundary designed to address existing or potential locations for motels in the Carmel Church area. You have anything you want to add, Kevin?
Yeah, the question that I had asked, just as I was looking through here, I was under the impression that if a building is unclean or dangerous or has the potential for a person to be sick, is the health department not an avenue to address these issues? I'm not saying that we don't need property maintenance, but where does the health department fall in line with these kinds of situations?
Yes, sir. In the report there, some of those are health department inspections, and we actually did a joint inspection where those photographs are of the studio cities. If there is a potential for a health concern, they do have what they call a motel inspection program, and how they execute that, I'm not really sure. I've never known them to go forward with any enforcement, nor when we did the joint inspection, did they let me know. Once we got done, and then a couple days later, they said, "Hey, Kevin, here's our report." So I don't know what action they do take, but by the Uniform Statewide Building Code, any residential unit that we get a complaint on, we being the building department, it gives me the authority to go and specifically address the life safety issue or the building code item that is in the complaint, but it doesn't give me the jurisdiction to do further inspections of the facility. An example, I may get a complaint, a perfect example, I had a firefighter out of Pennsylvania who was traveling through Caroline, spent the night in the studio cities when it was named something else. He was on the second floor. During the evening, the fire alarm went off, and none of the egress lighting worked. So he fought his way out of his room, down the hallway, down the stairs, into the public way in the dark. He didn't come to the office, but he emailed me from Pennsylvania and said, "Hey, this is a concern." I filed that as a property maintenance complaint, went down, did an inspection of all the egress lighting, got all of that repaired, but that was as far as the authority in the code allowed me to go. What we're proposing and what other jurisdictions do, because these are rental dwelling units, they fall under the R2 use group of the building code, we can do a limited property maintenance without doing it county-wide, and then that gives me, or let's not say me, the property maintenance official you appoint, Mike Fincham, the authority to go down.
That would be him.
And then we can mandate we need to inspect 10% of the rooms. they pick or we pick the 10%, and then as we find things, we can expand that, and what you see in this report would encompass that entire facility. It is unacceptable.
Okay. And I guess, I don't know how other board members feel. I just don't want us doing someone else's job. That's the part that concerns me. I certainly don't have any problem with us being able to address these issues. And if that falls under the county's ability or the county's job, if you will, to do that. But if the health department or some other state entity has the responsibility of doing this and they're not doing it, I don't want us to assume responsibility that someone else or some other entity has.
Oh, yes, sir. And this is twofold. Within that report, half of that responsibility is ours because it's the smoke detectors, it's the plumbing, it's the structural integrity, it's the life safety issues as far as guardrails, handrails on the stairs. That part is ours. The bed bugs, the silverfish, the mold, that would be the health department, and it would be a joint effort. So it's about 50-50 in the report whose responsibility it is.
Okay, other board members?
I had just one, Mr. Taylor. We've been working, I'm sorry Mrs. Beard left, but we've been working with this area for, I guess, since I had hair, which is a long time ago. And we had complaints about the water was the problem, and we fixed the water issues, and really it's just become embarrassing.
Yes, sir.
If you've read the reviews on the web, it's, please pass this exit, don't stop here.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how the government can, actually control or regulate a building, but if you're going to run a hotel in Caroline, it's got to at least be a certain standard. So I think this is a first step in moving that standard, and maybe we should be more aggressive. I would vote for as aggressive as possible, because my patience level is not what it used to be, but we need to fix this as soon as possible.
And Mr. Thomas, the approach would be, if we adopted this ordinance, go in and hit them all, full scale. It's going to take a little while, get them up online, and then once they're online, then it's a maintenance schedule, an inspection of, like I said, 10%, and the authority is in the maintenance code to allow us to do that. And I feel, when I get a complaint, and the example I'll use is the firefighter out of Pennsylvania, went through, made sure, and I kind of stretched it a little bit, got exit lighting and smoke detectors in the hallways, because I couldn't go into each room. I didn't have the authority, but the smoke detectors in the hallway, we got all of those up to speed. What you see in this report is that same motel, and them smoke detectors that are gone. The only thing that's left is what you attach it to. Who knows where they are? Here we're back again some 2 years later. So with a maintenance program, I think we can prevent the severity of what you see in this report.
But the photos are embarrassing, if not illegal. But I have a personal story. One of my constituents who I know and love very well was at our house when the power went out. She drove to Carmel Church to have a place to stay with lights, and after 10 minutes drove back home and said, I'd rather be at home in the dark with no power than down there. So it's that bad, and we really need to fix it, because we're doing a lot of things, a lot of good things in that area. I imagine we're going to have a lot of visitors in that area soon, so we need to do all we can to make it better. I don't know what it's a cultural thing or whatever, but we need to fix it now.
My other concern in going along with the fire safety stuff is the one from Ricky Madiak, where there's a private fire hydrant that doesn't work and there's no smoke detectors. So you end up with a fire and somebody shows up there, the fire hydrant doesn't work, the smoke detectors don't work. We have a real catastrophe. The pictures were just did they let you into these rooms to take these pictures? Did you have any issues of?
Actually, it was fortuitous. The complaint we had from a gal that was staying there, I went there and she wasn't home or wouldn't respond. So as I'm looking, there's doors where there's no doorknobs, no room numbers, and the doors are partially open. Well, to me, that's access. And they laugh about the one, they call it the Jumanji room. That's the photos of the mold coming and the bathroom, and there's multiple rooms like that.
There were no doorknobs?
Nothing, zero.
The picture.
And on top of that, for fire and rescue, if you see further in the report, the number of times we're responding over there is really sapping the resources from fire and rescue and the sheriff's department that can be utilized elsewhere in the county.
Mr. Whiteman, I got it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr.
Can
Black.
the owners of these facilities, can they be fined for some of the stuff that we're seeing here?
Yes, now, we
I
adopt...
mean, are we doing that, or do we have to?
We have to
adopt this?
take the steps to get there. We
Okay.
adopt the property maintenance code, we converge, we do the inspections, we annotate the violations, give them X amount of time to get them abated. They're not done, then we go see Judge Watner, get them into court, and then, at that time, yes. Now, we can't, the building code is not punitive, so we don't have fining capability, but that's when we take it into the courts.
Wait, is this like regular property maintenance now? If I have to hire somebody to go in and clean up their building, I get to charge them?
What no, we,
And if you say no, how do I make it like that?
through the property, I don't know, through the property maintenance code, once they're given the directive and they don't comply, then we go to the courts. And the courts inspire them to
See,
affect the repairs.
the court doesn't have the same black eye that the county has. And I'm trying to put a stake on my eye so it's no longer black. So how do I do that? And I like Mr. Black's suggestion, but again, I want to be as aggressive as possible. So can we bake something in to the property maintenance code you want us to adopt and say, if it's not corrected within the time period, the county has the authority to correct it because you're running a public enterprise that involves the health, safety, and welfare of travelers going throughout the county. We'll fix it, but you're responsible.
Yeah, and I think through the USBC, there is the authority of the USBC, Part 1, which gets you to Part 3, the maintenance code. There is a fee schedule that is like the building code when you
Yeah.
get a building permit. So we can do a fee schedule that'll cover the inspections, and then failed inspections, whatever we set that fee at would be incentive. But as far as hiring a contractor to work on somebody else's property, the USBC.
Well, I guess my question is this. I think I read in here last night, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was moldy drywall, and someone put just fresh drywall over the mold.
That's correct.
I mean, that's just downright criminal. And I mean, there's no way that these people that should be.
Yes, sir. To you and I, that's criminal, but you get into court and you get some milquetoast guys, and they're like, well, no, that's just sloppy workmanship. He didn't know mold was bad, and then you got to prove he knew mold was bad. Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
So Mr.
It's just
White-
workmanship, but
So,
I get into that every day.
So Mr. Whiteman.
Sir.
It would seem to me that since you are our expert, resident expert, I think we should rely on you to give us some directive and start putting things to paper to determine how we move forward. If this is the first step, certainly we have to have second and third steps to protect our citizens as well as people traveling through the county. So I think we ought to use your guidance and leadership in terms of where we go legally to make sure we dot every I and cross every T.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask, just before that, and Mr. Akers, I'll get right to you.
right.
Would it be, since everybody seems to want to do what we can do to make this as effective as possible, I see it as two ways. Should we adapt what we have here and then go to the next step, or should we maybe do an emergency ordinance? I don't know, but I guess my question is, what is the best way to address what we've talked about?
Sir, it's my opinion that Mr. Fincham and I get together with the property maintenance code, write an ordinance, get it to Mr. Emerson, check the legality of it, and we'll have the parameters in there. And then how we enforce it is already there. The property maintenance code already exists. It'll be for that combined area that we have designated, and it's the residential units, because that's all we're allowed to do. This, you can't use the property maintenance code for people in single-family dwellings. This is people that rent facilities for other people to use. So people, the last time, some years ago when we had the property maintenance code, people were afraid we were going to tell them what color their gutters could be and how tall their grass can be. That's not the case here. This is for rental units only. So once we adopt the ordinance, Part 3 of the Uniform Statewide Building Code, we enforce that just like we enforce the building code. All the parameters are there, how to do it, how it's done, everything's already written for us.
So we need to go ahead and adopt what you have here, and then proceed with the second step?
We need to prepare the ordinance, get it blessed by legal counsel that it, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, we actually need to prepare the ordinance for first reading for you to review and consider, that you can then authorize us to go to public hearing with that ordinance.
Okay, so what about this request that you made for tonight?
That is the request, sir.
You just make a motion to adopt.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Akins.
Have we shared these pictures and the information you put together with this board with the health department?
They were with me, sir.
They were with you all the
It
way?
was a joint inspection, we did it together.
And he's saying there's nothing you can do about it on their end?
No, when they got me the reports, because I said, hey, I would like to compile that to present to the board, they said they were looking at doing their hotel inspection program or something to that effect. And the gal that's running it, she got married this weekend, and she's on her honeymoon this week, but
What we're trying to do, I understand, is fix the problem in the long run. And I understand that completely, and I'm all for that, and we need to do that. But I just think we need to do something now in order to help with the issue, because, I go by that one hotel on 95, right off 95, you can see it, and there are lots of cars there. So there are a lot of people staying in that hotel, or motel, or whatever it's called.
Extended stay.
It is sad, because there are some kids in that place as well that are
Yes, sir.
staying there, that are having to live in that mess. And it appears to me that there's something we can do.
how fast can you expedite
It has to be something we can do to protect those children. Because I can tell you, I've seen children catching a bus there.
But we don't-
Okay, so I know they do.
Mr. Akers?
Yeah.
Our issue is not uncommon, is not limited to us. We have some articles from some of our neighboring jurisdictions that are dealing with the same issue.
Right.
So what we'd like to do is to have the comprehensive package for first reading for you all to look at your next meeting, which would be November 12th, I believe.
Sometime in November,
Right.
mid-November, yes.
And we'll also be looking at the extended occupancy issue as well.
Okay, so you're saying there's nothing we can do between now and the middle of October to get the first reading, and then it has to go to public hearing, I'm sure, and that's going to take another 2 weeks, or does it?
We'll talk to Mr. Emerson, and perhaps we can address that issue in the form of an emergency ordinance, but I would not want to tell you tonight that we can do that. I would want to talk to Mr. Emerson.
I don't want to wait 2 weeks.
I think there's an emergency ordinance we can do. There's got to be a way we can have an emergency
It
ordinance
appears
which
to
would
me
be the
it's something
same.
we can do.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, during our break, can we get Mr. Fincham and council just to start talking and see where we can go with this and bring this back to have further discussion on this?
Well, you could advertise a public hearing for your next meeting. You really don't need an emergency
We could
ordinance.
adopt it at our next meeting. Okay.
Okay, so what we would like for you to do is to get together with Mr. Emerson. We'll take it's time for us to take a break anyway, and you can come back, and then you can draw something up, or we can advertise for public hearing for the next meeting. Okay?
Yeah, let's come back and discuss this. I don't know.
Okay, we can recess until 7:30. We will now reconvene the Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting October 13th. Just before we go to public hearing, we were on agenda item 9. Basically, what we're doing is preparing for public hearing an ordinance. So, do we need to take action on what's on the agenda tonight in order to do that?
Mr. Chairman, I think you need to authorize us to advertise a public hearing for the necessary amendments to adopt the limited adoption of the Virginia USBC property maintenance code.
Okay, so we need to do that in the form of a motion? Okay. So we need a motion to authorize public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I will make the motion to authorize public hearing for our pursuit of property maintenance issue in what was called the Property Maintenance District, I guess, at Carmel Church.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we would authorize public hearing for the Virginia Property Maintenance Code, Limited Property Maintenance Code. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, that takes us to the public comment section of our meeting, and I do apologize, we are running a few minutes late, but this is the public comment section of the meeting. If there are citizens here who would like to address the board on any issue that's not on the agenda or not a public hearing, you may come forth at this time. Are there citizens who would like to address the board on any issue that's not a public hearing or not on the agenda? You may come forward at this time. Again, if there are any citizens who would like to address the board on any issue that's not a public hearing or on the agenda, you may come forward at this time. Seeing no one with the desire to speak, I will close the public comment section of the meeting. That takes us to public hearings. Agenda item number 4 is a rezoning 02-2015 Borden Randall J. BG Partners LLC, Walden Albert Douglas owners, McKinney and Company applicant. Request a rezoning from rural preservation with a density of 1 DU per 10 acres of land to M1 industrial, no specified density, comprised of a portion of tax map number 82-A-157, 53 acres, tax map number 82A-159 in its entirety, and tax map number 82A-160 in its entirety, and totaling 190 acres plus or minus. This property is generally bounded on the west by I-95 North and the north and east by Cool Water Drive, Route 652, and generally north of Ridgefield Road, Carmel Church Loop, the Mattapani Voting District. The proposed use is a storage warehouse and distribution facility. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this area as being located in the Carmel Church growth area designated as planned development. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing tonight is the aforementioned RZ02-2015. The request is to rezone approximately 190 acres on all or a portion of 3 different tax parcels from rural preservation to M1 industrial with conditions. The board is very aware of this application. This is the application for the large warehouse and distribution center that the board previously authorized an expedited public hearing and review process for this application. The applicant is requesting the M1 zoning to allow the construction of up to 1.5 million square feet for a warehouse, office, and distribution facility related to grocery products. The development application that you have, including the GDP, the elevations that have been included in your packet, are what generally the applicant has agreed to and has been discussed with the board in your and planning commission in previous discussions. The various review agencies were provided a copy of the application. You have a few comments from the agencies that we would expect to receive comments from. We have a modified traffic improvements to the Carmel Church Loop and Coolwater Drive intersection to accommodate the turn movements into and out of the facility. There are a number of wetlands on the property which posed a challenge in designing and locating the facility. Those issues have been overcome, as well as other environmental issues that have arisen along the way. The subject property would be provided by public water and sewer from the county. That would be a relatively easy extension from our existing Carmel Church facilities to serve the site. The Planning Commission held its public hearing and forwarded this application to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval. So you have the packet in front of you, including the comments from the various review agencies and the proffers as they have been submitted. And with that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Does the board have questions for Mr. Fincham prior to the opening of the public hearing? If not, I will open the public hearing for rezoning 02-2015 as presented. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this rezoning? You may come forward, state your name and your district if it's applicable.
I am Bonnie Woods. I live on Ridgefield Road, which is south of the proposed facility. I was at the planning and zoning meeting, and I do have minutes of the meetings. There was not a VDOT officer present at the time. It says here that Frank Wilson stated they had a scoping meeting with VDOT, and VDOT required additional traffic counts at the exit from I-95, and no other counts are required along Coolwater Drive. He said he believes this to be a pretty low-use road, which I contest. He said usually VDOT focuses on truck traffic rather than automobile traffic. The last impact study was done January of 2013. We are fast approaching 2016, so in a few months we will be 3 years out from this traffic study. The study that I was provided shows that there was a traffic study done. It used figures, and this was done again in January. Now, I write commercial truck insurance for a living in Caroline County. That's what I do. And I do know for a fact that in January through March, that is the lowest time for a lot of truckers. So with this impact study being done in January, I feel that it has lower than normal traffic venues. Now, I was also spoke with the engineer, Peter Hedrick, of VDOT in Fredericksburg. Asked him about some of these studies that I have looked at. And the Route 207 at Coolwater has a rating in 2013 of C. D or better is passing. Estimated for 2014 was also a C rating. This is now, again, 2015. By the time this facility is going to be built, it will be 2018. We will be how many years out from this traffic study? The population is increasing in Caroline County along with the traffic volume. Back to my issue of Coolwater Drive. That is a thoroughfare from Route 1 to Carmel Church. A lot of people use that. I think it's a much higher use than the county believes it to be. I seriously request that the Board of Supervisors table this until an impact study is done on the Cool Water Loop and Cool Water Drive itself to address exactly how much traffic we have traveling those corridors. And I would like it to be done at a time that is not a low peak time for tractor-trailer traffic.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And I have copies of all this if anyone would like to request it in an email.
Thank you very much. If you would like, you may give it to Mr. Pardon. He can distribute it for us so that each of us will have it, if you would like to do that.
Certainly.
Okay. You can mail it to us, Ms. Woods, if you'd like to.
Just give them email address.
Okay.
Just give them all the email addresses.
Okay, maybe it might be easy if you just email it to the county administrator. He could see that we get copies of it.
Or Mr. Parton.
Alan can take care of that
Mr.
part.
Parton's got it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this rezoning? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this rezoning?
Over here.
Oh,
Hi, my name's Lori White. I live on Moncure Drive, 10301 Moncure Drive, really close to where the facility is proposed to be built. I was concerned about environmental impact because it is a large rural wooded area, and as they stated, wetlands and all, and I was curious what they're doing to kind of counteract the environmental impact. Like, are they going to try to use any green technology like green roofs or biosweeps or, let me see, have some research what the things are called, bioswales, permeable pavement or cisterns, because a 1 million square foot facility is huge, and they're going to be wiping out a lot of places. Honestly, a lot of woodland creatures and all the critters live and all, and for us who live around there, you know, it's like, where are they going to go? You know, because they got to live somewhere, so they're going to end up on our property. And I love the animals, and I'm concerned about the environment and that, and the impact it's going to have for those of us who live so close to it. And most of us have well water. I know I do. And I just want to make sure there's not going to be anything that's going to seep into that. There's already a problem on cool water. Every time we have a big rain, trash comes up, which I think is probably thrown into that big pond from the apartments and all over there. That's already had an environmental impact. You know, and maybe if they want to build the facility, they can do something positive for the environment, like help keep that clean, you know, or help do something for the environment if they do build it that remains, you know, or something like a green roof or something like that to help counteract the environmental impact and make sure there's no runoff or anything that affects us that live around there. And I think it would be a great job opportunity for us who live in the area. That's wonderful. Hint, hint. But my main concern is for the environment. And I mean, I know if eventually something's going to be built there, this sounds like a positive facility. It's better than a lot of other alternative things. Like I said, good job opportunity. Sounds like a good, positive company. But my main concern is with the environmental impact. It's going to be such a huge, you know, change. They're going to tear down lots and lots of trees and possible wetlands, and like they said, it's hard to try to build around that. So, okay, that's all. Thank you.
thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this rezoning? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this rezoning? Finally, is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this rezoning?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors.
Good evening, sir.
Sorry?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Wilson with McKinney and Company, and I am representing Harris Teeter on this rezoning. As you can see, unfortunately, I cannot see that picture, but we are going to have, I don't intend to bore you with a PowerPoint presentation, but I just want to put this. advance this thing? Do I use these buttons here? Okay, that's good enough. Okay. That is pretty much the same general development plan that I believe is printed on this board. Harris Teeter has acquired a portion of the Borden property that will be consolidated into 196 acres in order to develop ultimately a 1.5 million square foot grocery distribution facility, as you've heard. The planning for this and the location of the building and on all the the driveways has been done to minimize environmental impacts. In spite of the fact that those pink lines that you see around the streams are RPA or Resource Protection Area lines, and wetlands run down those streams. And there are many, many acres of wetlands and RPA. And in spite of that, we will be disturbing something like 0.66 of 1 acre of wetlands. And we'll be disturbing less than 180 feet of stream. Approximately half of the site will not even be disturbed. The green that you see there will be undisturbed vegetation. So a concern, and those are the areas where you find the species that need to be protected and the little creatures that most people are concerned about. They're not in the upland area where the building is going to be located. They are actually in the part of the site that is going to be left intact, left as it is at the moment. We've done, besides the normal wetland investigation, we have done a special study to determine if there is an endangered plant species called a swamp pink, and they could not find any trace of swamp pink. And in addition to that, we are doing an archaeological study because Caroline County and adjacent areas have a record of prehistoric, of findings of relics and prehistoric artifacts and resources. And because of that fact, Harris Teeter agreed to an archaeological study that's costing them about $22,000. It's being done not as we speak, but at the moment. And we should have a verbal in about 2 to 3 weeks. But as of the present time, the archaeologist hasn't found anything of any significance in the area. So I believe that they have gone kind of above and beyond to try and ensure that this facility will not be disturbing valuable species and endangering the environment. The stormwater management is done in accordance with the latest state DEQ and requirements that were enacted in about July of 2014. The new stormwater regulations focus on volume control instead of peak control, and that makes a very big difference to the size of stormwater facilities. It also encourages more overland flow than used to be the case before. So there will be swales, there will be as much a pervious area as we can practically incorporate into a facility like that is very heavy traffic, but it will be done. We haven't gotten to the point where we've done construction drawings and detailed design, but we are setting up the facility to incorporate those features. So I believe that my client has been very environmentally conscious and responsive, and we've still got to go through a full site plan design review process that comes back to the county. VDOT has been involved in discussions and other agencies. So if you have any questions, I think I've covered all of the main points, and I'd like to attempt to answer questions if you have any.
Okay. So what we will do is go ahead and finish the public hearing, and then board members may have concerns or questions, And if so, we will address them at that time, okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like